This is why you get trapped in bitter cycles of resentment and guilt when it comes to some relationships, and how you can break free. Picture this scene. Little George hasn't done their homework again. And upon realizing this, their exasperated parent loses their temper and shouts, "You're so lazy, you're never going to amount to anything." But George's second parent hears this and jumps in to calm things down. "Leave George alone," they say. "They've been trying, but they're just not getting it. Give them a break." Relieved, George goes to stand with parent number 2, shoulders slumped, and says something like, "You're the only one who's ever nice to me," which earns them a cuddle. And while that's going on, parent number 2 shoots daggers at parent number 1, who shoots them right back and says, "You're too soft. They're never gonna learn." Who did you identify with most in that little scenario? Who would you say was making the biggest mistake? And most importantly, how do you think this story would end? We're going to come back to little George in a few. First, let me introduce you to the drama triangle, one of the most life-altering ways of looking at the world that I've ever come across. By the way, my name's Hazel Gale. I'm a former therapist turned author and creator of the fantasy stress relief game Betwixt, and I am so excited to share this with you. So, the drama triangle was developed way back in the 1960s by psychiatrist Stephen Karpman as a way of understanding the power games that get played in conflicted relationships of any kind. So that can mean relationships we have with another person, with a group of people, with ourselves, with our thoughts, emotions, or the object of an addiction, whatever. The drama triangle is everywhere. Basically, any interaction we have with anyone or anything that makes us feel a bit crap can be described in these terms, which is why you need to know about it. So grab a notepad and buckle up, my friend, because if this is new to you and you don't have some kind of aha moment in the next 15 minutes, I'll eat my hat. A rough outline first. Start by picturing an equilateral triangle with one corner at the bottom pointing down. This model suggests that whenever people are playing a psychological game, they start by stepping into one of the 3 roles positioned at each of the 3 corners on the triangle. The persecutor/bully and the rescuer/savior are at the top in the one-up position, and they play the game from a place of "I'm okay, you're not okay." Then there's the helpless victim, who's in the one-down position at the bottom and plays the game from a position of "I'm not okay, you're okay." In truth, none of them are okay, but we'll get to that. Now, most people will be most familiar with one of these 3 roles. Your classic playground bully, for example, would be most likely to enter into drama through the persecutor corner. But that doesn't mean that they would stay in that role, because what actually happens is, as soon as we enter into drama through any of these 3 gateways, we will proceed to cycle through all 3 roles, probably multiple times. And guess where we always end up? Victim. This is the great irony, because we play this game with the express intention of feeling powerful or taking back control. But no matter how we play it, we always wind up feeling stuck, powerless, probably resentful, and generally not okay. And the worst bit is, we do this all the time. Let's go through the roles one by one to see how they work. So the persecutor is the bully in the scenario. In order to feel in control or better about themselves, the persecutor will attempt to punish or overpower whoever it is that they see as the victim in the game. This role is all about blame and criticism. But before you start thinking exclusively of that evil boss you once had, remember that we all do this in our own way. Basically, any time we find ourselves saying or thinking, "This is all your fault," we are probably in the persecutor role. Examples. We persecute whenever we do something to get our own back. When we snap at people, point fingers, put people down, make judgments or cruel jokes, etc. And also when we attempt to take control by being dominant, issuing rigid demands, or acting in a superior way. Taken to the extreme, persecution can take the form of serious abuse. It's not always in this category, but it is always damaging, and not just for the victim. If you speak to someone while they're in this role, though, they will not recognize themselves as a persecutor, because in their mind, they're the one being victimized. To them, the world is a big, bad, dangerous place, and they are perfectly justified in their fight for survival. The rescuer, on the surface, looks like the opposite of the persecutor. They say, "Let me help you," and they are here to selflessly save the day. The thing is that just as persecuting is done to make the persecutor feel okay about themselves, rescuing is also more about making the rescuer feel okay than it is the victim. A habitual rescuer has learned to feel a sense of power, control, or self-worth as a result of being the savior, the good guy. And this means that they don't really want the victim to step up and empower themselves, because then they'd have no one to save. So while they might look like they're helping, the effect of rescuing is actually to keep the victim down in the dependent role of victim where they're most useful to the rescuer. More on this in a moment. Rescuers get hooked into drama due to the belief that they have to save whoever they're saving, because those people cannot save themselves. As a result, they tend to chronically put the needs of others before their own, and they can feel terribly guilty when they're not rescuing someone else. The final role is, of course, the victim. The victim's position in the game is poor me. While we're in this role, we will feel oppressed, powerless, hopeless, not good enough, or otherwise limited by circumstance or other people's actions. And we will deny having any ability to change things because we believe ourselves to be incapable or powerless, and that we therefore need someone else to come along and save the day. Important note, some people genuinely are dependent on others, and we all need connection. Also, some people, unfortunately many people, truly are being actively victimized by other people. This model does not deny these truths, but rather exists alongside them, focusing on how people tend to interact with others, rather than trying to discern the objective truth of any one situation, which is usually pretty impossible to pin down anyway. Habitual victims may sometimes marvel at how they have so many people in their lives who are prepared to bend over backwards to help them out. These, of course, are their rescuers, who are attracted to anyone with a propensity to play the victim like moths to a flame. But as well as attracting rescuers, habitual victims will also attract and sometimes actively seek out persecutors, who serve to justify and explain their enduring sense of powerlessness. But remember, most of this goes on completely unconsciously, so we won't necessarily know when we're doing any of this. So what's actually happening here? Each of these roles represents a way for us to manipulate others into meeting our needs for us without us having to do the difficult thing of making those needs known. That sounds horrible, and in a way it is, but we all do this without realizing it half the time because it's a dynamic that is so ingrained in how we've learned to interact with other people. The problem, of course, is that it doesn't work. Whatever secret need we're trying to meet with our power plays gets instantly swamped by the sense of self-loathing and powerlessness that we feel as a result of getting dragged into the non-stop whirlpool of the game itself. Let's take a closer look at how cycling through the three roles can seem like it's going to meet our needs. First, as the victim rotates through the three roles, they will rescue and persecute from the one down position. To rescue, they might say something like, "You're the only one who can help me," which is exactly what a rescuer wants to hear. This one-down rescuing allows the victim to enjoy a deceptive sense of power by successfully manipulating others into taking care of them. In relationships with the strong victim-rescuer dynamic, the victim can sometimes find themselves intentionally staying down, staying small and helpless, just so their rescuer continues to have something to try and remedy. Ultimately, the victim would prefer to create a situation where it seems like someone has to save them, rather than risk an attempt at an equal relationship, and this is because they don't fully believe that they're enough on their own. They think they need the drama for security. The unconscious belief sounds something like this: if you need to save me, then you won't abandon me. And that, by the way, sets things up for the victim's primary means of persecution, which is the guilt trip. If you loved me, you would help me, or how dare you leave me like this? Again, the victim here attempts to meet their need for a sense of power or influence by exerting control over the apparently stronger rescuer in the game. And because all this sounds so horribly manipulative, it's really important to remember that people will be completely unaware that they're doing this half the time. These patterns play out unconsciously, learned way before we're old enough to understand them. Let's take a look at the rescuer. The rescuer offers the kind of help that keeps their victim small and one down, and therefore locked into the game. This allows them to also set up a way to feel secure in their relationship. The rescuer is essentially saying, if you need me to save you, then you won't leave me. The result, of course, is a codependent relationship, built on the sticky but ultimately very shaky foundations of these power games. And the worst bit is that each party knows exactly what's going on and doesn't want the other to win at the unconscious level. Because if one person gets to feel okay on the drama triangle, that means the other person has to be beaten. There is no equal footing here. Drama is always one up, one down. See if you can recognize this sub-game that gets played by the rescuer and the victim. It's called Yes But. So first, the victim says something like, "I feel really fat and unattractive. I hate my body and I won't feel good about myself until I lose weight and get fitter, but I just can't do it." The rescuer, spotting an opportunity to help, might suggest something like, "Why don't you come with me on my morning runs? That'll shift a few kilos in no time." But The victim says, yes, but I can't because I've got bad knees. So the rescuer finds an alternative. Well, in that case, we can do yoga at lunchtime. Victim replies, yes, but I can't do yoga because it damages my back. Okay, says the rescuer, perhaps we could go swimming. Yes, but it takes me so long to get in and out of the pool and the chlorine makes my eyes go red. Yes, but, yes, but, yes, but. As this game goes on, at some point the rescuer will throw their hands up in the air and say, that's it, I've had enough, solve your own problems, which signals their move into a new corner of the triangle, because withdrawing their help is the rescuer's primary way of persecuting. They won't stay there for long though, because they'll feel really guilty about it, which pushes them down into the victim corner, and then they'll jump at the earliest opportunity to rescue again and make themselves feel useful with a fresh bit of martyrdom. I'm sure you can see how this is so sticky and repetitive. And it's not only the rescuer who gets to persecute in the game of Yes But, because the game itself is a passive-aggressive form of persecution available to the victim. Its function is to prove that the problem is unsolvable. You want to help me, but you can't. I win. And just like Drama Triangle, Yes But is everywhere. I play this game with myself, often, and I can promise you that when you want to play the victim, there is a yes but for absolutely any suggestion. You have to recognize it for what it is if you want this to stop. Let's get back to the main game of Drama Triangle, because we haven't taken a look at the persecutor's needs yet. And guess what? The persecutor is trying to achieve pretty much exactly the same thing as the victim and rescuer. It's just that they do it in a more outwardly aggressive way. This is the case even when the persecutor is rescuing, which will likely be done in a way that's secretly intended as a form of punishment. They might blame the victim for being so demanding and then offer intentionally unhelpful or complicated help to get them back for the inconvenience. They could be the type of person to give a backhanded compliment or do the task requested of them poorly on purpose or with overt grudgingness. And they'll also play the role of victim in an aggressive way, throwing accusations around, like this is all your fault, you're doing this to me, and they'll do all of this in an attempt to fulfill their need for power and control, but also for a weird kind of security in their relationships. Because if you disempower the people around you enough, you will minimize the threat of them standing up and walking away. So now that you have a fuller picture, let's go back to the story about little George and the incomplete homework so you can see how the roles are being played. And then we're going to discuss how to get off the dreaded drama triangle. So the angry parent who calls George lazy and good for nothing, of course, has stepped onto the drama triangle in the role of persecutor. The other parent who jumps in as rescuer says, leave George alone, they've been trying hard but they're just not quite getting it. In saying this, the rescuer might feel like they're the one saving their child from the torment of the angry parent, but they're also inadvertently compounding George's sense of inadequacy and giving them an excuse not to do the one thing that would advance them, the homework. Simultaneously, the rescuer is persecuting their partner by undermining them and therefore forcing both partner and child down into the one down position of victim. When George then goes to stand with the good cop parent, that signals their move into the position of one down rescuer. Here they can keep the rescuing parent in the game by appealing to their hero ego. You're the only one who's ever nice to me, only you can save me. Then, in order to climb back out of their bad parent shame, the original persecutor might then turn on the original rescuer by blaming George's inadequacy on the rescuer's lack of discipline, which would put the original rescuer into the position of victim, and hence the whirlpool metaphor. Around and around they go, and down deeper into the story. At the end of this argument, all parties are left feeling as though they can't do anything right and that everyone else is out to get them. This switching of roles, by the way, is a defining characteristic of a psychological game. Moving abruptly from one role to another wins control by causing confusion and disorientation. The other person was perfectly comfortable playing whatever role they were playing, and so they get blindsided by the switch. And in that moment, the switcher gets to move into the one-up position. But any sense of power is short-lived, because the drama triangle has this toxic ability to trigger shame, and it reinforces painful self-doubts and fears. In this example, both parents get shamed for being bad parents, and George gets shamed for being lazy and stupid. So the drama triangle is never a good place to be. Let's talk about how to escape the trap. There are 3 very important but also very predictable and yawn-inspiring words that form the path off the drama triangle. These words are awareness, honesty, and responsibility. By awareness, I mean awareness of this game and how and where you're most likely to play it. Be honest with yourself. Which role is your usual starting position? And what's the hook for you? What is it that triggers you into jumping right into that role? The point of this video is to help you to start to notice the drama triangle as it shows up in your life, because that is the first and most important step if you want to get free of it. By honesty, I mean both with yourself and other people. You need to be really honest with yourself about the role that you're playing at any one time, and also about the needs you're trying to meet through the game. Once you have this information, the next challenge is to start to be more honest with others about those needs. Think about it. Seeing as drama triangle is all about covert, manipulative ways of getting those needs met, then breaking free must be about the opposite of that. Put simply, the better you get at talking about your thoughts, feelings, and needs, the less drama you'll have in your life. And by responsibility, I mean recognizing and really owning the fact that you are the only person who can get yourself out of drama. It is never up to anyone else. And the reason this is such an important point is that the refusal to take responsibility is the one thing that links all three roles on the triangle. The persecutor refuses to take responsibility for their own well-being because of their belief that it's not their fault and therefore somebody else should have to make it good. The rescuer refuses to take responsibility for their well-being because of their belief that they have to put others first, lest they feel useless, worthless, and powerless. And the victim refuses to take responsibility because they just don't believe that they can. The reality of the situation is that it is only once you have decided to take 100% of the responsibility to resolve the drama that it ever will. So this concludes our drama triangle deep dive. Well done, and thank you for sticking with me. And if you take nothing else away from this chat, please remember that no one, no matter what they say, can live life entirely free of the drama triangle. It is a fundamental part of being human. The best we can do is move towards a place of mindful awareness, honesty, and responsibility for our part in these dynamics, because that's where the real power lies. I really hope this helps. Please hit follow for more, and if you'd like to take an epic journey through a magical world in pursuit of mental wellness, then you can download Betwixt, a fantasy text-based adventure game that combats stress and anxiety. You can find it on the iOS App Store and Google Play.